अब इस सत्र में आगे वामपंथियों का समकालीन हिंदू विरोधी प्रचार इस विषय पर डॉक्टर SR लीला जी हमें संबोधित करेंगी। तत्पूर्व हम उनका परिचय जान लेते हैं। कर्नाटक बेंगलुरु की डॉक्टर SR लीला जी पूर्व विधायक हैं। आप संस्कृत विदुषी हैं। आपने हिंदू धर्म पर 34 से यानी 34 से अधिक पुस्तकें लिखी हैं। स्वातंत्रवीर सावरकर जी द्वारा लिखित साहा सोनेरी पाने इस मूल मराठी ग्रंथ का आपने अधिकृत कन्नड़ इस भाषा में अनुवाद किया है। मैं डॉक्टर लीला जी से विनती करती हूँ कि वे हमारा मार्गदर्शन करें।
ओम नमः सदसे नमः सदसस्पतये। अत्र शोभमानायां सभायाम् उपस्थितानां पूज्यगुरूणां साधुसम्प्रदायस्थानां तथा धर्मशीलानां राष्ट्रनिष्ठानां देशप्रेमिणां हिन्दुनिष्ठानां च पदकमले तत्र मम अनन्तानन्तप्रणतयः प्रथमं तावत् समर्प्यते। अत्र उपस्थितः अधिवक्ता महोदयाः तेषां वक्तृत्वशक्तिः कर्तृत्वशक्तिः अतीव सुप्रसिद्धा। इदानीं हिन्दुराष्ट्रजागरणसमये तेषां कार्यं कीदृशं हिन्दुराष्ट्रस्य हिन्दुजनानां मनसि शक्तिः उत्पादयति इति वयं सर्वे पश्यन्तः स्मः। महोदयाः, अहं किञ्चित् संस्कृते उक्त्वा तदनन्तरम् आङ्ग्लभाषायामेव वक्तुम् इच्छामि। प्रायशः सर्वैरपि ज्ञायते इति कारणात्। एतावत् पर्यन्तं यदुक्तं कानिचन वाक्यानि संस्कृते तदपि सर्वैः ज्ञातमेव। संस्कृतम् अस्माकं भाषा, भारतीयभाषा, राष्ट्रभाषा, सर्वभाषामयी भाषा, सर्वभाषाणां जननी संस्कृतम्। अतः सर्वैरपि ज्ञायते एव, विशेषः कोऽपि नास्ति इति। नौ कमिङ्ग् टु द टापिक्, see, I have been asked to speak on the Vamapanthis. Actually, the Vamapanthis are not to be spoken about. They are so negative to the country that we cannot just speak anything about them. Their contribution has been totally, it is horrific, extremely tragic to the national interests. Therefore, it's not necessary to speak about them, but since we are actually experiencing the Vyatireka effects, that is, the negative influence of these massacres, we have to have some knowledge about it. See, I'll take just 15 to 20 minutes and put forth only 3 points. First one is how this Videshi Chintana, that is the communist ideology, has taken a toll in Bharat. All of you know, in 1848, a German person, a German living in London, Mr. Karl Marx, along with his friend, Friedrich Engels, he wrote the manifesto, the Communist Manifesto. So, he had not come to India. He was not aware of the global affairs. He thought the entire world through his own prism, and he gave an ideology. Well, that spread, and many people took to it because of the circumstances then, and it actually became so widely known that most of them became communists. But it had a very short life. In 1980, the countries like Russia and others, Poland, Hungary, all of them who were blatantly communist, they came down. It was split. Soviet Russia split into so many parts and communism was over. The life of communism in Russia was over. But it was retained in China. You see, I am mainly presenting this to tell you the difference between the Indian communists and the Chinese communists. See, even today, China is ruled by the Communist Party of China. In India, we have the Communist Party of India. But you know the difference? In China, they are rooted to their culture, their history, their language, everything. But in India, they are against all these things. For instance, in China, they teach Confucius. Confucius is the philosopher of China, they teach. But here, the moment you mention the name of any Acharya who have promulgated the Vedanta systems, any other Darshana systems, they are considered as, they start talking about these people as those who promote. They start talking about them as communals. And they also mock at them, saying that they are going back to thousands of years and they are taking the country in a retrograde motion. This is how they do it. But in China, it is not the case. That is why Dr. Ambedkar called this communism as the wildfire. Wildfire is, how it destroys anything and everything that comes its way. It's not fire. We are fire worshippers. Agni Melaya Purohitam Yagnasya Devam Rutvijam. Hitam. It is for the hita, for the benefit, for the prayojana, purpose of all people. But whereas this communism is like wildfire. These are the words of, please mark that, these are the words of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, not mine. So that is one of the worst kind of fallouts that we had, the influence that Communist Party had on India. Secondly, I have to tell this, for lack of time, I don't want to elaborate on other points, but how markedly, how tragically the communist ideology has affected the Indian ethos, Indian thinking, Indian, the whole social fabric. I'll tell you one example. All of us, we pay our respects, we know the great saint, Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda was hailed all across the globe as the Hindu monk. It is Swami Vivekananda who, for the first time in the last century, in the end of the last century, who gave that impetus which was required for the Hindu culture, Hindu philosophy. And he took Hindu dharma, Hindu philosophy, the noble ideas, the universal truths contained in this Hindu dharma to the entire globe. But you know what happened when West Bengal, where Ramakrishna Mutt, started by Swami Vivekananda, compelled and they were forced to say that they are not Hindus because their property was to be taken over by the government. Unless you say you are minorities, not Hindus, because Hindus are in majority. So majority have no property rights, they said. And they forced the Ramakrishna Mutt, which was started by the great Hindu monk Swami Vivekananda, to identify themselves as minorities, not as Hindus. This is the worst effect that the Communist Party of India, the Videshi Tantra they had on India, on the populace of the people. And secondly, today it does not exist anywhere. Earlier it used to be in Calcutta and Calicut, now it is only in Calicut, and it is in Kannur and other places where they are still ruling. And today we speak of global villages, but they speak of party villages. Every village is occupied by is taken over by the Communist Party. No other person, no other ideology, no person who speaks something other than this can enter that village. They are immediately killed. So many, thousands of massacres have happened in modern India because of the communist ideology. That still exists even today in Kerala. And they combined with the Islamists, they are, having a tragic effect on the Indian populace. That we should realize. Secondly, I want to bring about one small, point to your consideration, your attention. Now, we speak of Hindu Rashtra. It's so dear to us. Who for the first time in the modern times spoke of Hindu Rashtra? Earlier it was Hindu Rashtra. When foreigners came here, they all considered this as Hindu Rashtra, Hindu people, Hindu Jananga, Hindu Jana, etc. But in the modern times, who spoke of Hindu Rashtra? Do you believe? Do you understand? Do you consider this idea that it is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar who for the first time spoke about Hindu Rashtra? See in his book, The Partition of India, or Thoughts on Pakistan, it is he who suggested the exchange of population. No other original, including Savarkar. Savarkar did not want Muslims to go away or take away their portion because we were against the partition of the country. Whereas Ambedkar was so practical and he had such a foresight that Muslims, the Islamist philosophy, it cannot be dignified with the word philosophy, their worldview is so narrow, it is so full of horrific thinking that they cannot live with Hindus. He made a complete comparative study of the Hindu society and the Islamic society and finally came to the conclusion that if at all Hindus in future have to have a peaceful, prosperous country, they must let all the Muslims go away from the land which comes to your portion. Then only it can become a Hindustan. And he said, India can be divided because he was not a Hindu lover, but he was an original thinker and he had understood the world, the political scenario. So Muslims are so exclusivist and they are also so aggressive, they will not let go without their portion. Therefore, he said, let the country be divided and that portion which goes to the Islamists, that should not have any Hindu person. All the Hindus have to be brought to Hindustan and all those who as Savarkarji was mentioning, they have penetrated into every village, no problem. India has the resources. If at all you want to have a peaceful, prosperous life in Hindustan, all the Muslims have to be thrown back to Pakistan. No one should live here. This is what Ambedkar said. None of us today have the guts to say this. At least I have written a book in Kannada based on Thoughts on Pakistan, giving the gist of the book, and I am trying to propagate this. Ambedkar, in that book, at the end of it, he writes an epilogue. Here he has for some sentences, I will read out from his book. A large part of the argument of this book has been addressed to the Hindus. Normally what we think is, Ambedkarji was against Hindus, but it did not mean that he is not a nationalist. He is the only person who had the foresight to tell that the coexistence of Hindus and Muslims is going to be tragic to this country. This is what we are saying. By 2047, they are planning to have an Islamic state. Have you been able to stop that? As it was mentioned by one of our speakers, democracy has become demography. So how are we going to tackle this? We did not listen to Ambedkar. And of course, Ambedkar was a bitter critic of the Congress leaders then, you know who are. He said, Hindus are in a majority. Being in majority, their viewpoint must count. These are, please mark this, words of Ambedkar. I feel that those Hindus who are guiding the destination of their fellows have lost what Carlyle said, the seeing eye. See, they were advocating the unity of Hindu and Muslims, which never occurred. You know, it resulted in partition and many horrors followed. I have made my point regarding Ambedkar's contribution to Hindu Rashtra. What I feel is that here onwards, whenever you speak of Hindu Rashtra, are the exclusive place for Hindus to live peacefully and prosperously. We have to take the glorious name of Ambedkar because he was the only courageous person who mentioned this. No other one mentioned this. Normally, our understanding of Ambedkar is so different. It was written in 1940, 7 years before partition. If the people then had heeded the words of Ambedkar, perhaps we would not have been in this muddle today. It's so difficult today. He also laments saying this. One wonders what has made the Hindu intellect so weak and so dull. They can't see some 10 years ahead of them. Why are they so dull? Today we speak of Hindu intellect, Hindu Vishwaguru, Jagadguru, etc., etc. But we could not see what is ahead of us just 10 years after the freedom. Finally, he says, if the Hindus don't do their duty now, they will perish. See, whenever we speak of text being formed, we normally say Bhagavad Gita should be taught. Okay, fine. But do you know what the others are teaching to their children? I say Quran should be taught. What is there in Quran? They are teaching every child to hit you. Do you know that? No. That is why we have become such an easy prey for them. We don't know what they are, but we want to teach Bhagavad Gita. Okay, Bhagavad Gita is an essential, we have to read. Our children should be taught Bhagavad Gita. But what is it that you teach? In Bhagavad Gita, you have Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Gnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, Asuri Dharma, Sattvika Dharma. What is not there? Sagrat Gitambhasi Snanam, Samsara Malamochanam. You have the highest spiritual truths embodied in the Gita. That's all fine. But what is essential for the present day? For the children, what should you teach? Is it Nirdando, Nitya Sattvastho, etc.? No. What should be taught to the children through Bhagavad Gita is daily we worship Sri Krishna Paramatma. What are his words? Swadharme nidhanam shreyaha. Don't give up your dharma at any cost. Do we teach them? Our children know this? Not at all. Swadharme nidhanam shreyaha. Paradharmo bhayavaha. What statement? How true it is. For me, I have always, regarded Gita as my great guide. There are so many sorrowful situations, unhappy conditions we face. But if you understand this, Kshudram Hridaya Daurbalyam Tyaktvottishta Parantapa, this is the statement made by the Lord to Arjuna. Don't be weak. Don't be without enthusiasm. Get up, do your duty. Hridaya Daurbalya, you seem to be suffering from your weakness. Cowardice, stop it, you nonsense. This is what Sri Krishna Bhagavan says. That's one thing. And finally, I want to end my short speech with this. I have noted it so that I will not forget. See, normally, we say, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Of course, each and every mantra of Veda ends with Om Shanti thrice. That's fine. But have you heard this mantra? All of you have heard. Most of you recite these mantras. But have you taken the meaning of this? Now, what is that we daily pray? Sarve cha sukhinas santu, sarve santu niromayaha, etc., etc. What does the word sarve mean? Sarve means all. Does all include terrorists? Does all include Islamists? Does all include missionaries? Does all include anti-Indians? Does all include anti-nationals? It does, no? The word all has all these meanings incorporated into it. But why do we say that? Are we so silly? Have we lost our intellect? That is what Ambedkar said. Why these people have lost their intellect? They don't seem to have a Viveka Jnana. I will give you one example. How we have lost that Viveka. Viveka is discrimination. Not being able to discriminate between good and bad is Viveka Jnana. Now, I would like to bring to your kind notice one Vaidika mantra which says, Sumitra na apavoshadhayas santu durmitras tasmai bhuya suryosman deshti yancha vayam vishmaha. This is just one mantra. You know what this is? It occurs 3 times in the Dashashantri mantras, which we always recite before we do any of the Vaidika karma, any of the, dharmika kriyas. What this mantra means? Sumitrana, the mantra starts, Bhutam vadishe, Bhuvanam vadishe, Tejo vadishe, Yasho vadishe, Satyam vadishe, etc., etc., etc. I remain honest, I remain truthful, I do whatever is necessary for the hita of the world. Bhutam vadishe, I will not do anything wrongful. Having said or taken all these pledges, finally it says, let the evil-minded do their evil to us. We should be protected from the evil doers. Sumitra na apaha. Apaha is Apo Devata is being worshipped here. The Apo Devata is requested, is worshipped, and it is being addressed, saying that Sumitra na apavoshadhaya santo asmakam. Let it be Sumitra for us, and let it be Durmitra for those who hate us. This is Vaidika mantra. Please, let us not repeat. Let us not repeat this survey. Why are we praying, wasting our energy, praying for the welfare of the terrorists, I say? Are we human beings? Can't we think? See, this is one thing. This is Sumitra. And what is the Mangala shlokas? What is the Aradhana shlokas? Tell us, Swasti prajabhyah paripalayantam nyayena margena mahim mahishaha. Let the rulers take the rightful path, the dharmic path to rule us. And what is Sajjana Santo Nirbhayaha? Not all. Let the good, let those who are bound to this nation, who are doing their duty, let them have protection. Sajjana Santo Nirbhayaha. Not all. Today, everybody is getting protection, but not we. And we are the people who have been praying incessantly since times immemorial, Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritangamaya. We have been praying incessantly and appealing to the higher forces that should come out of this darkness. This is the essence of Vedas. And Vedas are the foundational sources of this dharma, this Sanatana dharma. And what Sanatana dharma says, in one small sentence, I'll pick up from the Ramayana, which says, Kritecha pratikartavyam yesha dharma sanatanaha. If a person does a favor to you, if he is good to you, then return the favor, not otherwise. Kritecha pratikartavyam yesha dharma sanatanaha. You should not be doing favors to those who hit you, who want you to be destroyed. Thank you so much for inviting me here and also giving your patience here. Namas sarvebhyaha. Dhanyavadaha.